May 3rd, 2026, 2.27 million students walk into exam halls across India. One test, one shot at medical school. 9 days later, the government cancels the whole thing. By July, there's a tear gas flying 2 kilometers from parliament. This is the story of how an exam turned into the biggest youth protest Delhi has seen in years. And the strange part? The reason it exploded has almost nothing to do with the exam itself. Stick with me on this one.
ये जो जनता है ना, जनता अगर अपनी आई पे आए, पुलिस वाले तुम 36 बुला लो, तुम अपनी तोपें चलवा लो, तुम तब भी कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे जब तक जनता ही आओ लड़ने पे आ गई तो।
NEET UG is India's medical entrance exam. Clear it and you get a shot at becoming a doctor. Miss it and for most aspirants that dream is over for another year. There are barely 100,000 MBBS seats in the entire country. Millions compete for them every single year. On May 3rd, 2026, over 2.27 million students sat for NEET. A few days later, a chemistry teacher from Sikar, Rajasthan, named Shashikant Sutar, noticed something odd. A gas paper that had been floating around before the exam matched the real question paper, not a couple of overlapping questions. Investigators later counted overlaps running past 100. Some reports said as many as 140. On May 12th, the National Testing Agency scrapped the exam entirely. The retest got scheduled for June 21st. The CBI stepped in. 13 people were arrested, including paper translators and subject experts. One of them, a retired chemistry teacher who had worked on the Marathi translation. There had been a security breach. The government also announced NEET will shift to a fully computer-based format, just like JEE, starting next year, to make a leak like it's harder to pull off. For some aspirants, even that wasn't enough. Multiple reports counted at the least 4 students' suicide in the week after the cancellation. Aspirants who had spent years preparing for one exam and couldn't handle it, slipping away. That should have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. A scandal, an investigation, a fix, but it wasn't. Here's the part that made this stick instead of fading in a week. NEET getting compromised isn't new. A near identical leak scandal hit the same exam in 2024. Before that, there was the Vyapam scam. Every few years, one of the India's biggest public scams gets compromised, and every time it's the student who paid for it with money and with years of their life. And there's real money sitting on the top of all that pressure. India's coaching industry, the tuition centers, the test prep apps, the entire machine that exists because one exam can decide your whole future is already worth close to rupees 58,000 crore. It's projected to cross rupees 1.3 lakh crore by 2028. Around 7 crore students in this country are enrolled in some form of tuition right now. For a lot of families, that's not a backup plan, that's the whole plan. So when the exam that's supposed to reward all of that turns out to be rigged, it doesn't read as a technical glitch. It reads as a proof that the system millions of families bet their savings. So when the exam that's supposed to reward all of that turns out to be rigged, it doesn't read as a technical glitch. It reads as a proof that the system millions of families bet their savings on can't even guarantee a fair shot. That's why a static count about cockroaches turned into the biggest youth movement Delhi has seen in years. To lay it out fairly, the government don't sit on this. The exam was cancelled within 9 days. 13 arrests followed. The education minister met with a former ISRO chief to review security for the re-exam. The shift to computer-based testing is an actual structural challenge, not just a statement to calm people down. Delhi police also maintains the march was declared unlawful in advance and that they were enforcing existing orders, not attacking students without cause. A case is currently before the Delhi High Court over how police handled the protest site itself. None of that has moved the people still camped at Jantar Mantar. Their demand hasn't changed, and as of this recording, the story is still playing on. About this story isn't the politics of it, it's the math. 2.27 million people took one exam for a silver of that money seats. When something that scarce gets tempered with even slightly, the anger stops being about one exam. It becomes about every year these students already spent preparing for a system that was supposed to be fair. Whatever happens to any one minister, that math doesn't change, and neither does next year's exam season.